well, we mentioned Pink Floyd a few times. I mean, what is the state of affairs of Pink Floyd? I mean, nobody knows.
Nobody knows, nor do we. I mean, we haven't, I would say that we definitely have not agreed that it's all over and finished, that we feel that it still exists and it's sitting there waiting to be revitalised if we want to. Now, I think things have changed a little bit because David and myself both feel now that we would like to revitalise it. I mean, about 2 years ago, no one was very interested and they had other things to do. I think David and myself now would like to get going again.
Why is that?
Why?
Why? What's the next deal?
Well, I think David and myself probably, we've done a bit more solo work in the past, and I think we see that as something that teaches us quite a lot, and it's a sort of development that we could then put back into the band. I think Roger saw his last solo album as a sort of alternative to Pink Floyd. I mean, I'm not, you know, you'd have to ask him really to get full what he really thinks, but I think now Dave and myself both still would like to go back. It's partly because we've both done outside the band very different things to the band, so the band still represents an alternative, a sort of, you know, something different to do. I think Roger might either, he might change his mind if he felt that the rest of us were sort of feeling strong enough, wanting to do something and had some suggestions. I think he would feel, specifically, hates the idea of having to go back and do it all and us then join in.
But yeah, what about Eric Wright? I mean, is he completely out?
Well, in theory, he did leave, but
yeah, that's what I'm asking.
But having said that, I would think that he would come back if he was asked.
No, I mean, on the outside looking, the Pink Floyd, it seems that you are too serious about your own projects. You know, it's why it seems unlikely that you would get together. You know what I mean?
Well, they were too serious about our outside projects.
That's right. Yeah.
I think we have been then, but I think there's still a sort of there's an interest in what's possible as a band, because, you know, a sort of well-established band does have the potential to do things that are impossible as individuals. You know, Dave, I mean, I think Dave doing solo things, he's really enjoyed it, and he likes the atmosphere of playing music just as music, without a big show and so on. But I think in spite of that, there's still an interest and a delight in doing the other sort of performance, the other sort of show. So I don't think, I mean, I think it's one of those things where perhaps the interest died away, but can be revitalised.
What, interest in Pink Floyd?
Yeah. I mean,
yes, any day.
You are very wrong in that. I don't think that interest has ever died.
Have you got any ideas already for future possible Pink Floyd?
No, because I think it would, before anything else, the first thing to do would be to make a record. And it would depend very much upon the nature of the record, whether, you know, I mean, there's always that possibility of revitalising the old show, or one of the old shows. But I think we'd probably rather look to see if we had some new music and some different ideas.
What about, how did you react when your boss, when there was a, what was it called, Hitchhiker show at Oscar? How did you react towards it? I mean, have you been there? Or?
Yes. I thought it was very interesting. I mean, it was that thing of, I didn't like particularly to hear our music played by other people.
That's what I wanted to know, you know, because it's sort of your child, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the rest of the show, fine. But I still think it was, you know, I'd rather we'd have done it than, I mean, I've not necessarily done that particular show. But
yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
Did he ask you about it?
Well, we talked about recording that piece as a Pink Floyd track, but really it was very much Roger's solo thing.
No, what I mean, did he ask you about, did he tell you that he would like to play all Pink Floyd material?
Oh yes, yes, because we agreed that he could use the old film. We had some old film and so on. And, you know, I don't think I'd have ever felt it was right to say to him, no, you can't do it, because a lot of it were things that he wrote. And I think we're all entitled to play our old material if we want to with other people. You know, you could never say you can't do it, but no, I didn't like it. I mean, I might even have liked the music, but it made me feel bad to watch it.
That was an interesting point you made, that Hitchhiker's thing. He wanted it to be Pink Floyd.
Well, I think so, to sort of say...
Well, half of the show was all Pink Floyd, isn't it?
But would I mean his own solo album? The material?
Yes, to make it another Pink Floyd
Why nothing came up with the band?
Why?
Why you didn't
Wasn't
do
it
it as
made
Pink
by
Floyd?
No, because I think, I mean, it sounds silly, because The Wall, I have to try and explain. I think The Wall was, you know, was Roger's writing, Roger's idea, and so on. But everyone was sympathetic to it. They liked the idea, and we had the demos, and all liked it and wanted to work on it and do what we could. With The Hitchhiker, it was much more something that we heard and felt was very personal, more personal to him, that we were perhaps less sympathetic to, and that he should do on his own. So there was a sort of, I mean, I don't want it to sound as though we said we didn't want to do it and didn't like it, because it wasn't quite like that. It was much more a thing of agreeing that that was his personal view, whereas The Wall was a personal view, but one that we were sympathetic with.
You did a second show at Telescope, The Wall,
Yeah,
to be included in the film,
that's right.
which never made the film.
That's right.
So, I mean, have you seen the film up to it? I mean, have you seen the finished copy?
Some of it. Well, the reason why we didn't use it was, well, there were two reasons really. I mean, one, I think the film we got wasn't that brilliant. Not that. But the main thing was that once we started to use Alan Parker, the idea of the film changed slightly, and there was no place for it in the film anymore. And I think that was the right decision. I think the film became a story and became a proper piece of, I was going to say fiction, but it became more believable because it was total fiction. Whereas if there'd been a sudden bit of documentary of us in it, it would have all been fragmented and not made sense anymore. And someone put it very well, I think Alan said, the thing is that if you'd had it in there, it was almost like having a narrator, as you do at the beginning of a play or something, explaining the whole thing to people, which was unnecessary. It was a sort of unnecessary thing to sort of say, and I think that was right.
So, you cannot give me any direction about the film, if you haven't seen the whole lot.
The whole lot of, what, of the live stuff?
No, The Wall.
Oh no, I've seen the film.
Oh, you've seen?
Oh yeah, hundreds of times.
No, I'm talking about the film. The Alan Parker's film, the finished film.
Of The Wall?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and how did you view it?
I liked it. I thought I think he did a very good job. I mean, we were
Because
quite
you were near
involved.
to the original idea than anybody else. I mean, most probably him as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think he made another, or helped create another version of the story. And I think it works very well. I think it's quite a tough film, and I think that's good for a rock film. I think most rock things are rather ephemeral, and that at least has some lasting quality in it, because it's fairly tough. A lot of it's depressing and violent and everything else, but it's...
Life is not all roses.
Exactly, yeah.
Can you talk about a little bit about the cars? I'm really... you know, it is, Richmond's toys, aren't they?
Mm.
I mean, you really have to have good backing to be able to drive cars like you have miniatures around.
Yes. Through music, I've been able to realise my wildest dreams, really. I'd accept that. And also through music, I've been able to some extent, I mean, it's one of those very unfair things, but wonderful for me, which is that people are more interested in some crazed rock and roll drummer driving than in someone else. So that if you're looking for a sponsor or to suggest to someone that you should drive their car, they know they'll perhaps get a bit more press if you're in the car than perhaps someone who's a slightly better driver. So for something like Le Mans, where it's a very expensive race, I mean, well, certainly the most expensive sports car race, you're in a slightly stronger position to go out and look for a drive or get involved in a team or whatever. So it has double benefits at times.
You raced 5 times at Le Mans.
Yeah.
Why not more? I mean, you not this year.
Not this year because there wasn't. I only want to race there if I think that the car is right and the team are right, and that I would fit into it. That my position in it would be useful. I mean, having said that thing about I might get some use as a from a press aspect. I don't want to be there as the idiot, you know, who then is so much slower than the other drivers or whatever, or that they don't really want in the car. I mean, I only want to do it if it all works out. And there just wasn't a drive this year. I would have liked. I was a bit spoilt last year because I had a drive in the 956 Porsche, and that is so good. You know, the thought of getting something that felt less good. I didn't want to do it.
Do I detect sort of a doubt when you talk about yourself as a driver?
Oh yeah.
Do you doubt your ability?
Oh yes, but I think I doubt my ability in most things. I mean, it's that feeling that it's the same with music, really. I was a drummer that you think, well, I'm not really that good, but I've been lucky because I've been in Floyd. And so that's what's very good for one. To work with other people, because it teaches you that actually they suffer from the same doubts and so on. And I think most people do, and that's why it's so important to get out, because if you don't, you'll just never get out again. You'll just always be stuck, unable to play with other people, which is one of the great satisfactions of music.
I understand that is a doubt is the only way that you can progress, that you can better yourself in whatever you do. If you don't doubt, if you think, oh, I'm God's gift to mankind or something, you end up like Bob Dylan. No, really, I mean, I'm really intrigued, but I don't know much about the cars, especially the racing. I think have you ever been near Formula One, for example, or something like that?
Yeah, not really. That is too different. I mean, that's very specialised. You need to be totally dedicated. It's sort of a bit like talking about professional tennis, you know, that you can be a good amateur tennis player, but then you can't just, if someone said, you're really good at amateur tennis, why aren't you playing at Wimbledon against McEnroe? You'd say, well, because it's more difficult, you know, it's another level. But it's interesting, I have to say, you're the only journalist who's actually picked up on that thing about doubt and, you know, whether people do feel uneasy about things they do.
Well, I presume we do all. Maybe some people don't, confess. I'm the first one. I mean, it's the only way to do it.
No, I think that's right.
Really? Yeah. I didn't know until, I don't know, yesterday, the day before yesterday, when I was reading about that you had a shop for Austin Martins?
Yeah, that's right.
Those vintage ones?
Yes. And only vintage ones. Just very specialised. Which is a good way of doing it, I think.
But you don't do anything in that, do you?
No, not anymore. I mean, I'm still the sort of overall director of it, but I used to actually work on the cars occasionally myself for fun, but I think there's one thing is time, obviously, there's never time, but the second thing is I like working on cars, but I'm not a professional. And one of the things with that garage is it now has a very good reputation, I think. It's sort of generally agreed that we do very good work. And I think if you charge people a lot of money to do good work, you can't have someone who just is doing some spannering for fun. You've got to be absolutely certain that all the work you did was done by a professional, and you can say, we did it properly and you must pay us for it, sort of thing, rather than saying, well, actually, I did that myself. I'm sorry it fell off.
Have you got a big collection of cars?
Quite big, about 20 plus.
Oh, so what do you do with them? Do you have a little museum or something?
Well, some of them are next door.
Mm-hmm.
Go and have a look at them if you like. Some of them. So I race nearly all of them. I mean, I have raced at one time or another, nearly all of them. The other thing we're doing with them is trying to get them to earn their living by renting them out for films or photography or for advertisements or for displays or anything like that. And that's really what we're going to start with this office's primarily.
See, that's very interesting. I mean, God, yeah, you've got so many other interests. My opening statement of, music being a sideline, it seems to be
well, it's
more
not.
to the
I mean,
point. No, I didn't mean like that,
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good opener, but I'd always deny it.
But you always, you really have so many other interests that Pink Floyd probably can fit in.
Well, I would, if Pink Floyd was busy, I would make sure the other interests could manage themselves. I mean, something like the cars can manage themselves or someone else can manage them. The recording studio definitely can manage itself, and I hope when we're putting a new solid-state Logic desk in that it'll be very busy with other people. I don't really want to be able to use it at all. I'd rather it was absolutely full most of the time. I've never wished to have the studio at home, so I've always been particularly interested, particularly as I live in
Like an office.
Yeah. In that.
You used to live near to Roger Waters, didn't you?
I used to, but he's now moved out of town.
I see, so you're the only one in London,
Only
eh?
one left. Yeah.
Can you go back and can you remember any anecdotes of about Pink Floyd? What happened? Anything interesting?
Well, I mean, it was all interesting. You
I
have
know,
to tell me
yeah.
more specifically what sort of area. I can't think of anecdotes is always the sort of
Anything
typical.
happened on a tour, something in a studio, fun stuff.
It's in the, I don't know about.
I remember the last time I talked to you after the fictitious spot, we were talking about the early days of Pink Floyd and how you started playing the music you became renowned for. And your explanation was that you didn't know how to play proper rhythm and blues. And the visuals became because, the music, it was incorporated with the music and so on, Things like that. I really don't know anything in more detail. Or things like Roger Waters, when he played Netball, when was it? 76 or whatever. So, and he walked through the auditorium, nobody saw him, nobody recognized him, stuff like that.
Yes, well, I mean, those sort of things happen all the time. I mean, I think the sort of most extraordinary things were the big equipment things, like the business of the pig, that escaped from...
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Which is my biggest memory of the sort of things that happened. And all those inflatables that inflated. We built a pyramid that also inflated, which we had in America.
I didn't know about that.
We just did it for America. And it was an enormous 60-foot square pyramid. And we cut that loose one night, and it just went and it got about 500 foot into the air, and then it's a very bad flying shape. If you're ever thinking of building an aeroplane like a pyramid, forget it. And it just inverted, and the centre of it popped out. The Americans thought that was fantastic. One of them, I can remember now one of them saying, "My God, it's giving birth." As the sort of centrepiece came popping out and went up. And of course, this enormous mass of canvas then came down. But fortunately, no one was underneath it, because it would have taken ages to get them out of it. I mean,
Has anything happened to you personally, with touring?
in terms of what?
I don't know, something unusual,
Oh, lots of unusual things, I suppose. I mean, tours are made up of the. There isn't, you know, one looks back over 15 years or 16 years of touring, and there's nothing that springs up as that was really extraordinary, because each tour is made up of a whole mass of little stories. I mean, there are some nights that are really quite dull, and other nights where the road crew go on the rampage and the hotel's in uproar, and you know, there's trouble, and things where you're bored. And so, I mean, I'm sure, particularly the American tours, where you're looking. I mean, the nice memories quite often are things that aren't very unusual or dramatic. They're just the way you spent a couple of days while you were there together, and you know, you all went tubing down the river, or played tennis for 3 days, or something like that, rather than thinking, God, I remember that incredible thing. Those sort of events tend to be more to do with the strange people that you meet on tour, particularly. And the very strange thing is that you can have as much security as you like all around the place, and the only people who will ever get through to backstage are the real lunatics. You know, if it's your mother or the girlfriend or whatever, they can never get backstage. But if it's some real spacey person who wants to say, you know, I've heard the music in the Spurs, and I just know that you're God, or something like that, they always just breeze straight past the security guards. I don't know what happens, but they're always there, knocking on the band room door.
They must have more imagination.
Yes, perhaps they hypnotise them.
Does it happen to you when I mean, after all these years, that you sit at home and read or something, and you get those mental pictures of a band in a particular situation or something? Do you get those little flashbacks?
Not just sort of sitting. I mean, I suppose something would trigger it, particularly if you're watching a band on television or talking to someone. You know, particularly talking because someone mentions a city or something like that. That's why it's so difficult when you say,
yeah, right.
You know, tell me the story. I can't think of anything. If you said to me,
New
do
York,
you remember?
New York, so and so.
Yeah, and I'd say, oh yes, that was the time when the pig escaped, you know, something else happened, or the lunatic jumped from the stalls onto the stage, or something like that. You know. So the memory works in a peculiar way.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm asking. So you do get them. I mean, those memories, you know, flashbacks.
Oh yes.
Out of the blue.
And I think one of the curious things is sometimes when the band are talking about what happened in the past, how we remember things in very different ways, and so we'll argue for hours about whether. Do you remember that guy at the time Dave rode the motorbike through the restaurant? And we'll go, yes, Denver, 1972, and someone else go, don't be stupid. It wasn't Denver. It was. You know, Cleveland or something, and we have these, and we're absolutely convinced of of the memory we have. You know, but
how much do you communicate with Roger nowadays?
With Roger, not a lot, but I mean, I'll speak to him. We meet fairly regularly anyway, just to talk about the business and what we're doing and past catalogue and all the rest of it. And I see Roger socially. A bit. I mean, not an enormous, but we'll go out to dinner or meet at things. And I mean, I think I still look upon Roger as one of my best friends. I mean, he's been a friend for a long time. I mean, a very serious friend, because when we have an argument, you know, we really have the ones where you really hate someone and don't want to speak to them for a year. But I still look upon him as someone. He certainly. Probably we know more about each other than almost anyone else that close friends, because we've been around together for so long. You know, it's a friendship that goes back over 20 years now, sort of before the band. That's what's sort of curious about it.
Is it 20 years?
Well, 20 years, because I knew Roger 3 years before the band was working.
And does it feel like that?
No,
like
it feels like 5.
It does, doesn't it? The time always, I mean, once it's passed, you know, you never have a proper perspective of it.
Can we have a couple of minutes for photographs?
Yeah, all right. Okay, you have no.
All right, well, do you want to come over and have a quick look at the castle?
Yeah.
I was wondering, that's the book it's from by, so.
Oh, right.